over whether the federal government plans to hit back at U.S. President Donald Trump for increasing tariffs overnight. One premier says instead of further escalating the trade war, the time has come for Canada to drop its countermeasures.
President Trump has threatened to increase tariffs on some Canadian goods to 35% if no deal is reached by Friday.
Canada's sudden halt of potato exports to the United States is far more than an agricultural trade adjustment. It is a calculated response to a widening pattern of economic aggression from Washington. The move, coming amid President Donald Trump's latest wave of tariffs, signals that Ottawa is no longer willing to silently bear the cost of decisions made south of the border that jeopardize Canadian industries, jobs, and trade stability.
From the Canadians on the front lines of Trump's tariff war in a moment, but we begin with Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa with the muted response from the federal government.
For years, the US-Canada agricultural trade relationship was one of the most predictable in the world. Potatoes from Prince Edward Island alone accounted for over 20% of Canada's national harvest, much of which flowed directly to American markets. Restaurants across the United States relied on this supply chain for everything from French fries to processed products, and for decades the arrangement was mutually beneficial.
He's fully aware of some of the challenges as it relates to our relationship with the U.S.
The impact of the halt is immediate on both sides of the border. In Canada, farmers in PEI, New Brunswick and Alberta have reduced planting by up to 25% in anticipation of lower U.S. demand. Processors like McCain Foods have cut back contracts, and small farms are making difficult decisions about acreage, equipment investment, and staffing. While this creates short-term challenges domestically, it is part of a broader strategy to diversify export markets and reduce vulnerability to U.S. tariffs. That stability began to fray when Trump escalated his tariff campaign. His administration has imposed or threatened duties on steel, aluminum, dairy, automobiles, copper, and now agricultural products, often tying these measures to political disputes unrelated to the goods themselves. Canadian farmers and processors have seen this before. First, it was a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum. Then came the doubling of duties on Canadian metals, followed by automotive threats. In recent months, Trump has pushed for a 35% tariff on all goods deemed non-compliant with the US-Mexico-Canada agreement, even suggesting additional penalties on copper and agricultural exports.
Governments and markets around the world are taking stock today after the passing of Donald Trump's deadline to impose new tariffs on trade. Dozens of countries are affected, but at 35%, the levy on some Canadian goods are among the highest.
The White House has announced new trade tariffs for dozens of countries just hours before a self-imposed midnight deadline. President Trump has signed a new executive order imposing higher levies on imports
if Canada does not align with his trade demands. Trump's remarks about Canada have not helped ease tensions. He has frequently framed Canada as an unfair trader, threatened to downgrade trade privileges, and even suggested Canada should be treated as the 51st U.S. state unless it makes concessions in negotiations.
President publicly pushing the idea of Canada as a 51st state.
These comments have stirred frustration across Canada, where policymakers and industries see their country consistently targeted for political leverage despite deep integration with the U.S. economy. The halt in potato exports comes against this backdrop. Ottawa's decision to suspend shipments from PEI to the US coincided with Trump's most recent tariff hike on Canadian potatoes. The timing is no coincidence. Canadian officials understand that continuing to export at full capacity into a tariff wall benefits only Washington, which collects revenue while Canadian farmers take the losses. By halting exports, Canada is sending a clear message. It will not subsidize the political theater of US trade policy. In the United States, the ripple effects are hitting restaurants, distributors, and consumers. A 35% tariff combined with restricted supply has driven wholesale potato prices up by 8 to 12 cents per pound, increasing the cost of a 50-pound bag from $20 to nearly $30. Fast food chains, which depend on stable potato prices, have started reducing portion sizes or raising menu prices. For consumers, it's another inflationary shock tied to trade tensions. Canada's pivot away from dependence on the US market is already underway. Ottawa has signed a $1.6 billion KD export agreement with Japan, South Korea, and Indonesia, and is actively courting new partners in Southeast Asia. Domestic programs are being expanded to stabilize prices at home, with provincial governments working to support local farmers. While Asian markets pose logistical challenges, longer shipping distances, higher costs, and different consumer preferences, the diversification is seen as essential for long-term stability. The potato halt is part of a larger trend in Canada's response to Trump's trade tactics. Over the past several years, Canada has been targeted by tariffs not only on agricultural goods, but on metals, softwood lumber, and automotive components. Each time, the official justification from Washington has shifted, from national security concerns to trade imbalances to political disagreements over foreign policy.
In a letter addressed to Prime Minister Mark Carney and posted on social media, Trump said the U.S. will charge Canada a tariff of 35% on Canadian products sent into the United States, separate from all sectoral tariffs.
The result has been a steady erosion of trust in the reliability of the U.S. as a trade partner. Within Canada, the frustration is visible. Farmers, manufacturers, and exporters see Trump's threats as less about fair competition and more about political leverage. The perception is growing that Canada is being used as an example in Trump's broader America First trade agenda, with tariffs deployed as tools to pressure allies into unrelated concessions. At the same time, Canadian officials are cautious. While they are firm in opposing unfair tariffs, they are also working to avoid a full-scale trade breakdown. Ottawa's approach combines public firmness with quiet diplomacy, leveraging Canada's reliability as a trading partner with other countries to build new markets while keeping the door open for future normalization with the United States. The potato dispute highlights the shifting dynamic. What was once a symbol of cross-border cooperation has now become a tool in a trade standoff. By halting exports, Canada is not only protecting its farmers from immediate tariff losses, it is also making a strategic point. Canadian industries will not be perpetual collateral in U.S. political battles. For American consumers, the tariffs bring higher costs. For Canadian farmers, they bring hard adjustments. But for Canada as a whole, this is a moment of resolve. The country is demonstrating that it will not simply absorb economic blows from Washington without responding. And as new trade partners emerge, the message becomes clearer. Canada will chart its own path, even if that means leaving parts of the US market behind. The potato fields of PEI still stretch across the island, as they always have. But this year, fewer of those potatoes will head south. Instead, they are becoming a symbol of Canada's determination to stand firm in the face of tariffs and threats. Proof that the country is willing to adapt, diversify, and defend its industries, even against its closest neighbor.